Hajime! Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, you bass stitches. Welcome back to Comic-Jutsu, where we are celebrating the 12 days of Christmas by taking a look at the Lobo Paramilitary Christmas Special. Now, I know what you're thinking. You might not normally expect to see something like the Lobo series inside the Comic Book Dojo, but for this special holiday episode, we're going to take a look at one of my all-time favorite single-issue stories and just all-around single comics. Just fun to read, fun to look through, fun to tell people about, and hopefully fun to shoot a video on. That being the Lobo Paramilitary Christmas Special. Right here on the cover, the shenanigans begin. Warning: contains bad taste in the form of ultraviolence, icon bashing, and the finger, more offensive than Christmas usually is. And I have to say that during the 80s and the early 90s, Giffen created some phenomenal comedic superhero material, especially his run on Justice League and Justice League International, in addition to Ambush Bug and his work with Lobo, are all just absolutely stellar and guaranteed to put a smile on your face if you just want to read through and have some fun with comics. I remember buying this book off the shelf, and I absolutely fell in love with it as soon as I read through it. It has the typical great Simon Beasley art. I mean, it's not the fully deeply lushly painted style, but his quick cartoonist heavy metal muscle man style. And this book sets out from the beginning to take no prisoners, right away telling you the story of this family, of a father and his recent layoff from his job, and his wife kvetching and fussing him out about it, and saying that it's all his fault that they have a lot of kids and that the kids are going to do horrible things to them. The opening page says they're celebrating Christmas all across the universe, essentially, even on alien worlds. So the notion is that this opening framing story is taking place on an alien world where the children are going to rebel and Menendez their parents if they don't get the Christmas presents that they want. I love the cat running through the background here. So he says, okay, I know what I'll do, and he gets the shotgun, implying that he's going to go exterminate their children. That's when they get a knock at the door. The wife opens the door and finds the book outside. She brings it in. They puzzle over at what it could be, reading the warning on the cover, and they decide to flip it open. And this transition is actually really nice from the standpoint of just sequential illustration and storytelling. You have this jump that would do both Alan Moore and Grant Morrison proud, where you have this jump in media where the comic page becomes part of the book inside it, and you see what they're seeing as they read the warning and the pitch here, the elevator pitch of the Lobo Xmas sanction, as it's called in this story, within the story, which is then backed by our cast iron guarantee. And you see the credits down here at the bottom. Keith Giffen on plot and breakdowns, Simon Bisley on art, Alan Grant on dialogue, colors, letters, editor, Bad Dan Raspler. That's funny. So I'm curious about the three-way union between Keith Giffen, Simon Bisley, and Alan Grant. You know, how extensive were the breakdowns that Giffen threw down? I know he did that for just a lot of books. I mean, he was a steady, fast penciler. Never used a heavily rendered style like your Jim Lees or your John Burns, but his storytelling was always solid. and then you have Beasley coming over top of it to render it down into place. And you have this kind of a Ralph Steadman-like appearance of the characters within. So you have this great transition back and forth through the medium. And they decide to read on. Once upon a time, there was this really cool dude. There was also a dog of sorts that had taken to following him around. I actually don't remember where the dog came from. Have no idea what that's about. I don't even think they could get away with this nowadays, with Lobo just wearing the Iron Cross like that. That's pretty risque stuff going on there, even for then. But back then, there was this push in the late 80s, early 90s to prove that comics were not for kids. Although, if I was like 14 years old when I read this, it would have been my favorite comic book. Didn't matter that I was older when I read it, but still, the result is the same. So Lobo is going to accept a contract, and you see here that he is meeting with none other than the Easter Bunny. And I have to say, Alan Grant's drunk dialogue is fantastic. It's so believable. I mean, you can recall speaking with drunks who thought they were holding their liquor and their alcohol better than they actually were, that sounded exactly like this. The juxtaposition of their words, the slurring, the stumbling, the muttering, that sort of thing. It's all just spot on, 100% believable. But again, this is a fun book. You can see it's not heavily rendered. I imagine they punched it out pretty quick in the monthly schedule. But it's a big book, and it is self-contained for a special issue. And apparently the Easter Bunny represents a group of concerned partyish, as he says, who want to hire you to eliminate what we see as a growing threat to our respective holidays. But anyway, great stuff there. And he finds out, oh, you want the fat boy scragged, huh? I never did like Christmas. Of course, Lobo will say something like that. Easter Bunny says they're willing to pay, so he says he'll accept it. Here you go. He goes back, gears up. This is just the most 80s gearing up montage ever. You could just hear the music in the background, like the Scarface music, or the cheesy power ballads that you'd hear in the old Cannon films. Chick, chick, snack, click, frack, ho, ho, ho. He sets out to find his target. The caption boxes are great. I mean, they really fill in the world. You can tell they're just really having fun with this. Just everybody. That Keith Giffen had a blast just laying this out and throwing this story out on the page, and then Beasley had fun coming in behind him and gnarling it up and inking up the page and making it really dirty and gritty. And then Alan Grant worked his wordsmithery on top of it. Now here I can never quite figure out what this is, if this is their heads exploding, punt, punt. Because you can see that he is targeting them. Typical camper, camping out from a distance. But here their heads are intact when he gets up to them. Or maybe those were just drunk dwarves on the inside. I'm not certain. But anyway, so he has to sneak past the electrified fence. I love how they turned the North Pole into this fortress that has to be penetrated. So it has these elves on guard duty and electrified fences and all that kind of stuff. And here inside, they're joking about never getting a break, only once a year on Midsummer's Eve and that sort of stuff. A lot of great little visual in-jokes. Lobo comes inside, makes his threats, gets met by elves with guns. Here's where they refer to him as the naughtiest one has come. He's infamous here in here at the North Pole, here at Santa's home. The naughtiest one has come. And then, this is a little odd. Of course, they pull the triggers and they're just toy guns. And Lobo, in turn, shows them that his gun is not a toy gun and that it, in fact, functions. So here you go. You know, I never want to get too caught up in the notion that we have to be constricted by reality and things as they are and what they should appear to be, and sequence of events and cause and effect and all those sorts of things, and combat or anything in storytelling having to be entirely detailed. I mean, we just enjoy those elements when they do show up, and we see like studied technique reveal itself. But at the same time, if you can just have fun with it, go over the top, you know, in Marvel it seems to be, if it's dynamic enough, it will be believable. And here with this Simon Bisley's heavy metal muscle man, heavily rendered style, if it's over the top enough, or if it's excessive enough, if it's gory enough, it will be believable. And it is. I mean, there's no need to over accentuate the points on any of this. It's just raw carnage on the page. And it's much like the opening of The Godfather here. It's juxtaposed against holiday songs. Although Lobo starts off singing the Snow White version of the Hi-Ho song. Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work I go. I rip off heads, I shoot 'em dead. I blow their guts out through their butts. Hi, fraggin' ho. Hi, fraggin' ho. Hi, fraggin' ho. Was that wrong, dwarves, huh? Okay, get a load of this. You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Bo is coming to town. Over to you, mutt. He sees you when you're sleeping. The dog just starts jumping on the elves, ripping them apart. Help, somebody save me. See, this is just nihilistic carnage, and it's glorious. It's just plain fun. Of course, it's offensive, it's politically incorrect, it's all of those things, and that's what makes it a joy to read. That's why it's fun satire. That's why it's just it's great comedy. Cha 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 cha. So be bad for badness sake. I'm jumping back and forth, but that's how we do it. Smooth. Lobo has to pose just for the sake of posing there. That looks like a money shot on that page. I'm sure he sold that page for a lot at the conventions at the time. He keeps looking around. So you're the man, huh? Santa Snecking Claus, a.k.a. Father Xmas Kris Kringle, Big Bloody Nick, the Crusher. Done your homework, boy. I like how the first reveal of Santa is almost Kingpin-esque, where you see his cigar first, like a frame out of Frank Miller's Daredevil. But please, call me Chris. Or sir, this is my roommate Kong. Can he fetch you a drink? That's just a nice non sequitur. This is my roommate Kong, okay? In your beer, lard ball. Pucker up. Payback time for miserable childhood. And you know, somebody actually did a fan film of this. It's super fun. It has Andrew Brynarski as Lobo in it, and it's great.
Santa Claus.
It's a lot of fun.
AKA.
Here they jaw off at each other. Santa realizes he can't be bought out, so they have to duel it out. And he busts out the weaponry. Now, when I first saw these when I was younger, when I bought this off the shelf, you know, I just thought these knives were just weirdly drawn. But, you know, now, I mean, they really look like a Scream Collie Arnis blade. But I love that whoever had the biggest hand in rendering this, and maybe it was Giffen, I mean, starting it all out, makes this a rough and tough, gritty knife fight in here. The storytelling is great, and the way that they cut in nice and close to build the tension. But here in this opening attack, you see Lobo slashing, and you see Nick ducking and making a cut of his own. There he's blocking. You get the idea that there are more blocks or some cuts getting through. And here we actually have a grapple and a mobilization, which is very common in Filipino and Kali arts. Was Keith Giffen familiar with Filipino Kali? Because it sure seems like it. I mean, this is some advanced stuff. So he's got an immobilization and then goes into a throw. Now, mind you, they don't have to have any of all this. But it's just fun that plunk, all of a sudden, in the middle of all this chaos, you just have this gritty fight. This eyeball popping, blood spurting, head chopping blade fight with what appears to be Filipino weaponry. I mean, it's fantastic, and it reads great. I love the almost Sergio Leone punch-ins here. We got Saint Nick with his eyeball falling out, and here's what the kayfabe guys would call that Outlaw Comics blood. Free of the tyrant at last. 3 cheers for the main man. Lobo. Season's greetings, fats. There you go. Completely irreverent. Completely enjoyable. And he goes through the lists here. The naughty and the nice lists. He sends out bombs to all the nice list recipients. So there you go. He tells the reindeer to haul the sleigh and deliver all these bombs, but Rudolph refuses to do it. Rudolph, lead my sleigh tonight or I'll blow you away. No! Blam! So he shoots Rudolph on top of killing Santa. I mean, the irreverence just never ends. On Fragger, on Bastich, on Scuzzball. Let's see if I inputted this baby right. Bingo. This is going to be the best Xmas ever. And there you go. With Santa's gorilla roommate. There's a splash page for you. I would love to have that framed. I wonder what that looks like. With Bisley's inks on top of Geffen's breakdowns. Incredible literary masterpiece. Yep, they come out of the last page, just like we do. Close the book. They come back to reality. Book's gone. The children have to be dealt with. Yep. And then the last page, well, that's what you get. There's that finger they were talking about. Not even just from Lobo, but from the dog too. So there you go. What better way to celebrate Christmas than with Lobo's Xmas sanction? Thanks for watching. Like the video, comment below. What are some of your favorite Christmas-themed one-shot comic books? Let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those places, all those things. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Merry Christmas, and here's to a Happy New Year in 2023. I'll see you there. Mate!